Events in the early 1950s hinted that mayhem would plague the second half of the 20th century, and by 1953 the pattern was well established. This year would see the death of a well-known country singer, more nuclear testing, nursing home fires, plane crashes, tornadoes, and the overthrow of a democratically elected government. Barely a decade after the Second World War ended, it appeared humanity might be rushing to a third and final confrontation. Let the fun begin. Hank Williams. Hank Williams was an American singer-songwriter who is perhaps the most important country music artist of all time. He was born in Alabama in 1923 and began his music career in 1937. Unfortunately, a birth defect resulted in a lifetime of discomfort. Williams was born with spina bifida occulta, a condition that resulted in his vertebra not closing completely. As a result, he had persistent and frequent back pain. Although he had some early success as a performer, most of Hank Williams' band members were conscripted into military service in the 1940s when World War II began. Williams avoided serving due to an injury he received from falling off a bull at a rodeo in Texas. Hank Williams was unable to keep replacement band members because of his excessive drinking. For the remainder of his life, he would have issues with drugs and alcohol. Most people at the time believed he consumed these substances to deal with constant pain. When Hank Williams was sober, his performances were considered legendary, but he would frequently become too inebriated to perform at all, or he would give a bad performance. On December 31st, 1952, there was an ice storm in the Nashville area. Williams couldn't fly, so he hired a college student to drive him to the next show in Canton, Ohio. Along the way, Hank Williams consumed tranquilizers and drank a lot of alcohol. He died in the car on January 1st, 1953. When the college student realized that Williams was gone, they were in West Virginia. Operation Upshot-Knothole. The United States government loved its nuclear weapons in the 1950s. It also enjoyed testing them over and over again. That trend continued in 1953 at the Nevada test site. When the nuclear weapons were being tested, 21,000 soldiers were taking part in ground exercises nearby. It was intended to teach troops how to function on the nuclear battlefield. The weapons system being tested was quite different from earlier versions. Rather than mount a nuclear device on a tower, the delivery method was an artillery shell. It was called the Grable Shot. The device that launched the projectile was referred to as an atomic cannon. Most of these tests provided data that was used in a series of experiments the following year called Operation Castle. That series of nuclear tests would create an environmental disaster, mostly because the scientists underestimated the destructive potential of the weapons. The soldiers performing ground exercises during the Grable Shot tests survived, as far as we know. Littlefield Nursing Home. Florida was a prime destination for retirees in the 1950s too, and that also meant the state had a lot of nursing homes. The Littlefield Nursing Home was in Largo, Florida. There were 57 patients living there. On March 29th, at around 3:15 a.m., a fire broke out. The owners lived on the property and were awakened by smoke. They used fire extinguishers to try to stop the flames, but it didn't work. The husband and wife team started trying to evacuate residents once they realized fighting the fire was pointless. The couple tried to call the fire department, but electrical wires had already burned through. There was no phone service. Additionally, the nursing home was located 2 miles from the nearest city, and there was no nearby water supply. The fire department kept bringing in tankers with water. They tried to fight the flames, but would run out of water and would have to wait for more. Evacuating the residents also encountered problems. Many of them had dementia and were bedridden. When the owners tried to remove them, the residents would fight to remain in their beds. Because of this, many nursing home residents were found the next day lifeless and charred, still lying in their beds. One woman, known as Nurse Gertrude, carried a patient out of the building to safety. She went in to get another and was never seen alive again. After the fire was finally extinguished, it was found that 32 people died in the fire. Another man was killed in an automobile accident while trying to transport a victim to the hospital. So, technically, the final body count is 33. No cause for the fire was ever found. The county sheriff thought defective wiring from a freezer started the fire. The owner of the building thought a resident was playing with matches. There were lots of theories, but nobody knows for sure what happened. A celebrity from the early 20th century passed away in the fire. Abraham Finkelstein began performing in 1908. He was an accomplished songwriter and recorded many songs, ending his career in the 1940s. Abraham retired to Florida in 1946 and worked at a radio station there. He had a stroke in early 1953 and was sent to Littlefield Nursing Home. The only good news in this story is he didn't have to stay there long. In case you ever wonder what it's like to narrate these history videos, let me tell you, sometimes it's difficult. The writers sometimes give me things that are graphic and difficult to describe, or deal with subject matter that is sensitive, delicate. In this particular case, while I was reading this last story, I was plagued with images of my own mother who died a few weeks ago, and prior to that was stuck in a nursing home, unable to receive visitors due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sometimes it's really hard. Let me tell you, we really appreciate those of you who watch these videos all the way to the end. We put a lot of ourselves into them. The 1953 Waco tornado outbreak. From May 9th to 11th, a deadly series of tornadoes formed in the central United States. They appeared daily, with the northernmost instances occurring in Minnesota. The southern end of the tornado series was in Texas. To understand how deadly tornadoes can be, it helps to categorize them based on severity. The Fujita scale is used to do this. An F0 has a maximum wind speed of 72 miles per hour and causes mostly broken tree limbs. An F1 maxes out at 112 miles per hour and can tear off roofs and send mobile homes flying. F2 maximum wind speed is 157 miles per hour. It can rip up large trees and turn debris into missiles that kill. F3 max is 206 miles per hour, which can tear apart forests and throw the heaviest vehicles long distances. F4 maxes out at 260 miles per hour. At this speed, the sturdiest houses are completely leveled. Almost everything caught in the wind becomes a deadly projectile. The highest end of the scale, F5, has a maximum wind speed of 318 miles per hour. This can rip apart concrete and demolish skyscrapers. Automobile-sized objects can become projectiles that travel over 100 yards. The tornado that struck Waco, Texas on May 11th was an F5. The nationwide tornado outbreak caused a total of 144 deaths over 3 days. The tornado that hit Waco caused 114 of them almost instantly. The winds in Waco destroyed over 600 houses. There were over 1,000 other structures damaged, and at least 2,000 cars were destroyed as well. For those that lived, 597 injuries had to be treated. How did these people survive an F5 tornado? Pure luck is the answer. Tachikawa Air Disaster. The United States Air Force continued its proud tradition of crashing airplanes in 1953. Soldiers in Korea, if they survived long enough, would be given a week of rest and recreation. Many of them would travel to Japan for maximum enjoyment of that time off. On June 18th, a USAF Douglas C-124 was returning several service members to Seoul, South Korea. The plane had 122 passengers and 7 crew. The aircraft departed Tachikawa Air Base at 4:31 p.m. 1 minute into its flight, the outer left engine of the aircraft burst into flames. The pilot immediately shut down the engine, then radioed that he was returning to the airbase. As the pilot was trying to return, the left wing stalled. It caused the plane to roll to the left and enter an unrecoverable dive. The pilot was heard on the radio yelling, "Give me more power! Give me more power!" to the flight engineer. At 4:34 p.m., the C-124 crashed into a watermelon patch about 3.5 miles away from the airbase. It exploded on impact. An investigation of the crash said the engine failure caused the plane to lose speed. The pilot used the flaps improperly, which further reduced speed. When the plane stalled, a crash was inevitable. Iranian Coup. Iran used to be a democratic nation. Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh was elected in 1951. One of the things he wanted to do in 1953 was audit documents of a British-owned oil company. The goal was to limit the company's control over Iranian oil reserves. The oil company refused to submit. Iran's parliament voted to nationalize the oil industry and expelled foreign corporate representatives from the country. The British were very unhappy about it. Winston Churchill thought Mossadegh was unreliable and became concerned communists may take over in Iran. Harry Truman was approached about orchestrating a coup but decided against it. He didn't like the precedent it could set, using the Central Intelligence Agency to overthrow a foreign government. The Eisenhower administration did not share Truman's apprehensions, so in 1953, the CIA worked with British intelligence services to overthrow the Iranian prime minister. After the democratic government was eliminated, a monarch was installed. He ruled for 26 years, until himself being forced from power by the Iranian Revolution in 1979. In August 2013, the United States government formally admitted its role in overthrowing Mossadegh. The CIA oversaw the coup, and it was approved at the highest levels of government. Whether it was national disasters, CIA-induced death and destruction, or just random misfortune, 1953 was a year filled with horrible events. Sometimes people spend a lifetime sowing the seeds of their own destruction. For the more fortunate, random accidents or secret government plots created the conditions for their demise. And for everyone else in the 1950s, nuclear disaster was always a real possibility at the best of times. Some people express this romantic reverence for the 1950s and think that returning to the way things were back then would somehow make America great again. Bad Things in History doesn't take an official position on this, but as the narrator, I'm making a last-minute change to the script to say that I think it's complete bullshit. I doubt it'll be cut in editing, but I'm curious to find out. If you find some value in what we do, please consider sharing this with a friend. And if you find what we do just plain awful, please share it with an enemy. You can take a little sadistic pleasure in them wondering which one they are. Thank you for watching Bad Things in History.